so many of these things we talk about that initial setup takes a little time, but you get that time.
Anything we can generate a list, it's variety, and there isn't one way better than the other for, I suppose in certain situations there is.
Well, nothing is perfect, right?
No.
Right. Yeah.
And teaching them that concept.
Allow them that autonomy where, all right, as long as you guys can do what we're asking you to do, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, this is class is for fun too. I want you to not ever be able to be with your best buddy. Welcome, physical educators. This is Thinking PE.
Because Phi Ed is more than just fun and games.
I'm Stacy Nelson.
And I'm Jamie Seneca.
And it's our goal to dig deeper beyond the activities that make your class awesome.
So buckle up and join us on this journey. Hey Stacy, we're in round 2 of this discussion we had on us making partners and choosing our groups and the why behind it.
Yeah, we're kind of picking up where we left off in the last podcast. We kind of really honed in on just specifically partners in that last in the last podcast, and now we're going to kind of expand with kind of the same ideas behind it, the same themes, but we're really going to focus on what new techniques or what to think about when you're choosing to put kids in larger groups than just partners.
Yeah, what I liked about the last podcast was we got a number of different strategies for partners. We're going to do the same thing when we talk about groups here. Is a number of different strategies, but what we did with each of those is really dig into the why you would use this strategy over why you would use this other strategy. And what we did come up with was there really wasn't a wrong answer to it.
Right. It was kind of more, well, it was 3 things basically, right? It was in your thinking about why you would use one thing over another. It usually came down to, are you trying to protect students' emotions? Trying to do a completely different activity so the kids, the kids don't get singled out at all. So you're kind of protecting them.
Fairness.
Yeah, absolutely. Or the second piece would be hitting it head on and addressing the elephant in the room and teaching kids how to be fair, teaching kids how to make, other people not feel alienated when they did their partners. And it would be the similar thing here with, if you're making groups, how to make not kids feel like they're not being left out. And then that third one, you want to address that?
And that was just flat out efficiency. That the other ones, they do take quite a bit of time, but sometimes you just need a group. And what we're going to discuss, a group right now, or you need to partner up right now, and just some of those fast ways to do it.
Yeah. And it's been interesting since we recorded that whole piece, and now coming to this piece where we're going to release this second podcast. I've used several of these things that we've discussed. It was fun to have a bunch of these tools here in my tool bag, and it was good because I had to address, or I had to change some things. I used some creative stuff, but then I'm like, oh my gosh, when I did that, I can't use that. My time was used up. So I actually need to go to something that just is instantaneous, get the groups done and move on. And so it was really good to have a variety of tools that I could change according to fit into my lesson plan. I just think the more tools we give teachers, the better situations we'll be in.
Yeah, we just found that the most important consideration was just to know your why. Think about why you're doing it a certain way. And in this next section, we talked with our good friend from New Mexico, Justin Black. He was the teacher of the year down there in New Mexico, and he's been a regular contributor to the podcast here. And what I'm excited for is one of the areas we did talk about. Ironically, I saw some posts on it on Facebook later after we recorded, was on choosing captains. And we just kind of touched on that a little bit. And that was interesting on how relevant that became. So, let's take a listen to this next section.
And I have, over time with some of my older kids, pulled them aside at the beginning of class and go, okay, today your job is to help with this scenario.
Yeah.
Or with this thing that we're going to work on.
Yeah.
I know you're really good at soccer. So when I put you in this group, I'm putting you in this group because I need you to help me with that group.
Yeah.
Make it a stronger group. Don't be upset because, I have to be with this group. No, you're my assistant today. And so that changes their outlook, their change,
Empower
on
'em.
how they think about it.
Yeah.
But I'll let them pick their groups, and then I'll go in and take their groups apart.
That's-
So, so
Nana, nana, poo, poo.
you know, but okay, and I go, I think I need to make some changes because things are going to work better, and I won't move one kid or two kids. I'm moving 4 or 5 kids,
Okay.
and so it's not obvious that I
Yeah.
need to get you out of this group.
Okay.
I'm going to start with, I'm going to move this kid over here because that works better. Or I'll move this kid over here, and then I can move this one over there because now we have a more level group.
Okay.
And so you use those terminologies of why you're trying to do what you're doing. But we talk about those things all the time. Like one of the things that I will never do intentionally on my end is I never put the 2 best kids together in a group.
Even if it's just partners playing catch or warming up their arms.
Pretty rarely, because I want those kids to interact because they're going to be who, when they go to recess, that's who they're going to play with.
Mhm.
When they go do something, that's who they're going to play with. And I go, I need you to do this a little differently. And we're not here for you. We're here for us. So my groups are in 6s.
Yep.
kind of for that reason. So row 1 and row 2, row 3, row 4.
Yep.
Right now you have 6 people in a group.
Yep.
But if I turn around and I come to the side of the groups,
Yeah.
now I have A, B, C, D, E, F.
Yes.
And I only have 4 rows or 4 kids in those rows. So now I have groups of 4 right
Yep.
now. But again, I can go row 1 and row 4, the first 2
Yep.
partners, second 2, third part, and you go back and those are your partners.
Yep.
So because of that numbering system, when they're already there, it's really easy to go find them. And then if I have a kid that's absent, I either make a group of 3 or I go, do we have 2 people absent? Okay,
Right.
you're now, because they both don't have a
Yeah.
partner. There you go. And we're done.
And it's super efficient, and you can fix that at the end in 10 seconds.
Or less, yeah.
If there's 1 or 2 absences, you can figure it out. And I like
My
it.
kids know their squads. I mean, that's something they have to know.
So you're going to use those systems when you know you've packed the day full and you want as much time for whatever activity you're going to be doing. You don't want to take 4 minutes for that conversation you were
Right.
talking about earlier about about the kind of the SEL aspect. You just need it to go quick and boom. So you've got these different systems in place, so you can be either efficient or you can really be addressing the elephant in the room, so to speak.
It's an interesting way to get random teams, all right, find a partner, rock, paper, scissors. If you win the rock, paper, scissors, go to this side of the gym. If you don't win
Yep.
the rock, paper, scissors, go to this side of the gym. So now you got all your friends bunched together
Yep.
to get to be partners, but now you just separated them. Okay, now we've got 2 separate teams. Okay, do it again, find a partner. And they do it again. Okay, if you win, you go to this side of the gym. So now all of a sudden you have 4 different teams.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Using that rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, it just goes to show how much the teacher really does have to pay attention to the groups that you make and where you want your strong people, and then there's times when you can let kids just be with who they want to, depending on what the activity is, and allow them that autonomy where, all right, as long as you guys can do what we're asking you to do, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, this is class is for fun too. I want you to not ever be able to be with your best buddy. And the teacher has to have a good rein on when to use different techniques.
A way to find groups of 4, which it is actually fairly fast, but you do have to count the cards. But you have a deck of cards, there's 4 of each card, and you have the kiddos, they put the card on their forehead. They have no idea what card they are, but they have to find their group of 4. So the whole class you as an individual have no idea what card you are, but you can see what everybody else is. So you see the kids helping each other find their group. And it actually, obviously the older the kids, the quicker it goes. But with partners, with that same activity with partners, where you have to find, the 2 black 4s have to be together and the 2 red 4s have to be together. That takes a little bit longer, but it's a creative way and a critical thinking way to get kids to find their group or find their partner.
Now, do you allow people to tell somebody else
They
what their
cannot
card
talk.
is?
They cannot talk.
Oh,
So if I see you two have fours, I can put you two together, but I have no idea what card I am.
And no,
So-
you can't tell them.
Nope, you can't signal. So
Yeah.
it's a cooperative, I use it as a cooperative game, but it's also a way you can find groups and partners.
Yeah,
Teaching them the importance of nonverbal communication.
True,
Yeah.
true.
yeah. So again, you're changing your purpose a little bit. Isn't to get them in groups as fast as you can. It's to, again, teaching nonverbal, to teach problem solving, to teach different types of things in there. Yeah, it's so fun. I haven't thought this much about groups. I've heard a bunch of these ideas, but I
So-
get on my own rut and I kind of do what I do. And it's fun to get these new ideas.
I'm kind of curious of some new ways. Let's just paint this picture where you have stations set up in your gym. You have 6 stations. You have 8 stations set up in your gym. And the preferred method, and I shouldn't say the preferred, my preferred method of what I would do is, I just you 4 over there, you 4 over there, you 4 over there. Not real creative in that manner, but a quick way to do it. And as I'm picking students, I'm putting groups of students that are going to be successful together. I'm just curious, what are some other ways that you would find that you would put groups, how you would group those students if you had stations all set up? Beyond just the random, what I would do, like I say, something other than just you 6 over there, you 6 over there.
So one of the things that we've done, and it doesn't necessarily answer your question because they're already in the groups, but we will only let one kid rotate at a time.
Oh, that's interesting.
So now you have a group of 4, but they're going to end up working with a lot more people because one person's going to leave their group when we rotate and a new person's going to come in.
Gosh, that's got the wheels turning. I've never thought about that, to put them in.
Or the other one that we've done is a rotation of 3. So you still have 4, but one of you has to stay there and teach the next group of 3 how to do this activity. And those 3 leave. And so the same person can't stay behind every time.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you're going to you'd have different stations then, because you'd be going to a different type of station they're going to teach. I'm trying to think of the other one where you were explaining, Jamie, how that works with rotating. Would you have similar stations? You just want to rotate groups, meaning?
Yeah, I was thinking, how my initial question was just how do you put them in groups?
Yeah.
Other than just saying, you 6 are going to group, you 6 go to station 1, you 6 go to station 2, you 6 go to station 3, but it kind of morphed into how you would rotate your groups.
Right.
And I've never ever thought about that, of rotating part of a group or an individual.
Yeah. It's really hard to monitor. It's another thing, you have to teach it, because you could I tried to do it. It's like,
Well, I would take it on.
I don't want to give it up, but
Yeah, go ahead.
I would take it on as any other thing you try new.
right.
Like the first time you opened up the chat in distance learning,
Right.
I can assure
Yes.
you that you had some kid hold down the X button
Yep.
for 25 rows because you hadn't established that culture. You
Right.
hadn't, and it's the same thing. The first time I'm going to try this, Justin, and the first time I try it, I'm sure I'm going to have some problems to address.
Yeah.
But it's a teachable moment.
Yeah. Well, you teach it or you try it with your older kids.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't try everything with
No, you
kindergarten.
do that with the
You don't start with kindergarten.
No, you pick your oldest group first, and
And
there is
learn your mistakes.
yeah.
Yeah.
But now think about it in these terms. How many times have you done an activity at stations and you get going and you get to the 4th or 5th rotation and one of the kids goes, I don't know how to do this station, and neither does anybody else because they didn't pay attention or they didn't remember what they're supposed to be doing when they got there.
Mhm.
Well, if one kid always has to stay behind, and you can even make it where you are picking, hey, let's do the rock, paper, scissors thing, or let's do, whatever. And this is who stays behind. So all of you have to know how to do this activity
Right.
because the next group needs to learn how,
Yeah.
and your job is to teach them, which is another one of those concepts, right?
Yeah. You could number the kids everybody, they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This time 4 stay behind.
Yeah.
And the next time 2 stay behind, and that'd be another way to do it. Yeah. I've had good luck, JB, and it's not fancy, but I've had good luck, if I have those 8 stations, basically saying, figure out the numbers. I'm going to have some groups of 3 and some groups of 4, based on your numbers, and just say, can't have any less than 3. You can't have any more than 4. And if you have 3 and you see somebody wandering around, now we've discussed enough. I say, what do you do? And they say, be an inviter, and that type of a thing. And it really goes pretty quick where, okay, I got to that. Oh, that group's already got 4. Okay, I got to go find somewhere else. And it's not fancy, and it's letting them choose their own group.
I was just going to say, we use 6 different colors of equipment is pretty common. I mean, when you get Gopher equipment,
Yes.
and I shouldn't even say Gopher, but just equipment comes in 6 different colors generally. And, one of our instant activities, kids come in, we give them a hula hoop and they just start hula hooping. And, then we have our station set up or however we're going to do it. And even if we're going to do teams, you could say, okay, the green, yellow, and blue hula hoops over there, red, orange, and purple over on this side over here. Or if you have 6 stations set up, red, yellow, just go right down the colors of the rainbow, and a way to quickly group them. And as I'm handing out hula hoops, I can also be pretty strategic who gets what color, or who's grouped with who if I need to go down that road.
If
But
you
now,
need to be. Yeah.
If I need to mix things up, 1 person can rotate or 3 people can rotate. So I've got that in my toolbox now.
Okay. Yeah, that came up on Facebook too. I thought that was a really good idea. Okay. Do you ever use captains to pick teams?
No.
Oh, interesting. That's a great question, Stacy, because no, I see it at recess all the time, even though that's something that, as a culture, I would try to avoid.
Yeah. Boy, I wonder if we could give the kids some recess skills of finding other ways to do the teams, or maybe they love to, what's it, love-hate relationship, Kids just love to feel that pain of picking teams. I don't know. That's an interesting thought, though, is to try to give kids other strategies to pick teams.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that the skills that we've given them on everybody's part of our family, and we're not here to, the term pile drive anybody.
Sure.
That they're learning, like we'll talk a lot about, the 2 best kids aren't going to be on the same team. If you're going to have captains, that has to be your 2 captains.
But that still doesn't help the kids that get chose last, the last 5 kids.
That culture of you have to include everybody. And I've actually had a couple that do this. Now, this is extremely rare, where it's that concept of go get boy, girl, because that helps that to some extent.
Yeah.
But the other one is, as they're picking, I'll go over and go, okay, you need to pick so-and-so. Or I'll go over and go, you need to pick so-and-so.
Yeah.
And get them to understand that concept of, you've now got 2 or 3 of your friends. You need to bring somebody else into the family.
That's a really good point, because my initial thought with captains was right away the kid that's the kids that picked last, and protecting that, and rightfully so, protecting that kid.
Absolutely.
But in a way, it's very similar to say, if you pick a partner, it's that kid that's drifting back, and without throwing the baby out with the bathwater, that saying, how do you create that culture where you can still have those captains, and still have captains, and just like you said, in a way, still protect those students that were going to get picked last. And how do you bridge that gap?
I just find it so hugely inefficient.
Oh yeah.
It's a time waster if there ever was one.
But a way to reinforce building, like Justin said, building a family. If your goal is efficiency, I agree. I absolutely agree.
If you do the teaching with it. Yeah, I think that's kind of just was my thought. One more question. Do you ever do girls against boys?
Well, let me rephrase that.
You just shook your head. I don't think that shaking of the head doesn't podcast real well.
Very rarely will I do that.
Yeah.
Now, when we do, it's something like we'll do builders and bulldozers with cup stacks,
Mhm.
where you're building the pyramids and taking them down. And we're doing a timed event, and we've done this group against that group and this group against this group, and we've done all of these things. And I'll go, okay, all the girls go,
Okay.
and so all of the girls from all the different groups are coming together. Okay, now all the boys, but it's not a part of a normal thought
Yes.
process of, hey, we're going to play a game, girls against boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've-
So you
I've-
might distinguish, but you don't really pit them against each other and divide by that line very often.
No.
I haven't done it, and it's
Mhm.
just when I see it, I see a level of competition that I'm not comfortable with.
Right.
It's almost, it just becomes like this game all of a sudden just became the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's just like so whenever I've seen it done, it's just the level of competition is just way past my comfort zone.
Hey, Jamie, I'd like to jump back to one of the things that came up there that I thought was pretty unique. And that's where Justin was talking about rotating one student at a time. And we've been talking about that, it's kind of brilliant. You can change groups just by having them pick one student, move. And I mean, it doesn't work for everything you're doing as a teacher, depending on how you need your station set up and what you got going. But I kind of like that idea of varying things up. Instead of switching the whole group, switch one kid. And you can do that in a variety of ways too. Just, the tallest kid in the group move, or whatever you want to do that way. So I just want to kind of highlight that. I thought that was kind of unique.
Yeah, it's something I've never done before, and it really falls under that first consideration of protecting emotions, where you're not really, you're not really singling anyone out, that you're moving anyone for a specific reason. Nobody's left out, but it's a way to mix up your groups. And yeah, I'm actually pretty excited to try that. I think we
Yeah.
made a good point though.
Yeah.
We don't want to try these with kindergarten first. I don't
No.
pilot my new activities with kindergarten.
No, not unless you want some good stories of what not to do. For
So-
sure.
So, but there are
Well,
some other. I
Yeah,
was
go
gonna say
ahead.
there were some other ones just about that kind of centered around that protecting the student emotions. That's like things like using colors of equipment, where all the red hula
Yeah.
hoops you're at station number 1, all the yellow hula hoops you're at 2, or however you choose to split it.
Yep. And then were there any more you wanted to hit there, or you want to talk about the where you're hitting it head on and addressing the idea of the emotions?
Yeah, just a couple more that that had the perception from the students, just the perception of being fair was,
Yeah.
we talked about the rock, paper, scissors, we talked about using cards, and then of course, with technology now, you've got the
Yes.
auto group generator. We just, whether it's kids have student ID numbers, or you actually have the kids' names in there, which takes a little bit of
Yeah.
work, but you just auto generate your groups. And these are just those fair ways to protect the kids' emotions, that there's, it's fair. There's nobody's left out.
Yep.
Nobody sneaks back into the shadows.
Yeah. And I think that's important to be thinking about those things, but it's not the only consideration.
Yeah, it definitely has its place. But this next one, where we talk about addressing that emotion, that came up as, so we have the student backing into the shadows. How do we address that? How do we actually give the tools for self-advocacy and self-confidence, so that those students aren't falling back in the shadows? And you gave it a great name about being an inviter, and Justin called it being part of the family.
Yeah. I think I really gelled with that. When we talked about it a little bit on the last podcast, on some of the teachers we've talked to and gave us these ideas, and it, from my personality, I like to address things head on, and it really feels good to be teaching the kids how to self-advocate, how to be aware of beyond their own nose, realize there's other people's feelings that could be hurt, or somebody that's not in a group, they might not even have their feelings hurt, but how good does it just feel to be invited in, that type of a thing. And for that matter, teach the kids, when you reach out and you invite somebody else, how good does that feel for you too?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm really hoping, is that spills over into the classroom, into other places where they just kind of realize by acting that way, by looking to others and realizing other kids have emotions too, that maybe that they'll start acting this way and doing those things beyond just when we're picking teams. They'll do it in, like I said, in the classroom or out on the playground or other places.
Yeah, and I like that autonomy that it gives, allowing students choice of choosing their own groups. But it does take that time to pre-teach. But then again, the benefit there is that we discussed the benefits of social emotional learning in previous podcasts, and that really ties directly into social emotional learning.
Yeah, and you do get that time back. I mean, I've noticed that with the groups that I've felt I've really done a good job of teaching with. Now, many classes I can just say, all right, I need this many groups, no more than 4 in a group, no less than 3, go. And even faster than when I could point kids to groups, they find them and they're ready for the next direction and ready to go. So you do buy that time back in so many ways.
So the other part of this addressing the emotions was we kind of touched on the captains. And what really caught my interest is after we recorded this, I saw a whole Facebook thread on choosing captains. And I have to be honest, I've never used captains as a teacher, but I see it all the time at recess. And I was just thinking, just because I've never used it doesn't mean it doesn't have its place.
Right.
I really haven't thought about how can I make it, we go back to that social emotional learning, and it's generally such a bad experience. And there's always that kid that's picked last, and we want to protect those emotions, and it takes forever, but there's got to be some benefits there. And I just wanted to chat about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think if nothing else, maybe its place, even if it takes a lot of time, even if you talked about a few of the potential negatives, if we can again give kids the tools, they are going to use this out on the playground. They're going to use captain. So we don't use it in the class because we have our reasons, and we found out a lot of people do use it. And I don't want to come across it just because you and I haven't had that as part of our toolbox that it never should be used, or I'm guessing other teachers that use it have a good reason for doing it. But maybe that's part of it, is they want to teach kids, how do you pick teams when you're out on the playground? If you don't use captains, I don't know, do you have any ideas to help kids if they were to say, yeah, I hate when we pick captains out there? If you had some kids come to you, ask you that, what's a more fair way to do it out in the playground? What would you recommend to kids do? Have you thought about it?
They could do a lot of the same ways that we do it in the gym class, whether it's, the rock, paper, scissors to choose teams, get with a partner, and if you win, you go to this side. If you don't win, you go to that side. But they ultimately, they like doing the captains, or some of them, they want that opportunity. So I really like what you're saying about give them the tools to be successful doing that.
Yeah. So what would you recommend if they really wanted to pick teams? Would you put some guidelines on it?
I think we absolutely need to have some guidelines, and Justin kind of touched on it at the end when he talked about, pulling some kids aside and saying, even though you're picking your teams, the students that are going to be picked last. So let's pick them somewhere in the middle. Pick them first. Yeah. Let them be the captains. So just, I guess I really haven't given it much thought about how I can make it work. And that's, I'm very, very intrigued by it.
Yeah. I know when I was in middle school, I had a pretty good Phi-Ed teacher, and he would do the captain thing. He would let captains pick, but he let the captains pick like the first 4 kids. So you get that feeling of, the kids love, but then after that, he had a way of just going boom, 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 and just dividing kids up. So it wasn't one kid that wasn't picked. It was half the class that wasn't picked. And so there maybe is something in there where you could have the kids, okay, pick your first 4. That captain picks their first 4, and then now maybe find a way, maybe paper, rock, scissors for the rest of the crew. So yeah, you didn't get picked as part of those first 4, but you weren't the only one. That type of a thing. Again, it's protecting those emotions. It's not really addressing it like we've been talking about, where you're having kids reach out purposely to the kids that often aren't picked, or you're helping the kids understand the feelings around it, but it would make it a little bit more fair and protect the emotions a little bit. I don't know. Any other thoughts?
It just off the top of my head, what came is maybe you and I are captains, and I pick your team and you pick my team. So
Interesting.
granted, the person that was going to get picked last is probably going to be the one picked first. But now we got to kind of talk about that. So if I pick somebody for your team, how are you going to react to that? Make sure it's an appropriate reaction, and like you said, an inviting reaction, or like Justin said, into the family, versus a big sigh of, oh, we have to take him.
Yeah, I think that would be the real big part of this. That is teaching kids how to react and not. Again, just being aware of others' emotions. If you give a big sigh, what message did you send? And making kids fully aware and having those discussions maybe in class. And even that, maybe that's all it takes is a few of those discussions about helping people not point out others' weaknesses, so to speak, with those sighs or with the uggs and that type of a thing. And maybe even encourage kids to compliment each other, even if a kid isn't great at something, that they would be encouraged in some way, or I'll take him, or I don't know. It is an interesting discussion. We didn't have a lot of dialogue about this ahead of time. So I feel like it's kind of spinning in circles a little bit, but it'll be interesting to see if others get a train of thought from this, and maybe another Facebook thread starts somewhere.
And that was really my goal. With that was not to put it in a wrong or right box, but just to have a discussion about it and kind of just think about the why. What could be the benefits be of it? Because the next part is the efficiency, the next consideration, and that's just the flat out. We need groups as fast as we can get them, so we can get this day started. We got a lot of activities. We have a fire drill in 10 minutes, so I want to get some things done. And that's where you have your squads where 1, 2, 3, 4 can go over here. Teachers choose, you 4 go over there, and the whole goal of those was simply speed. Yep.
Or even some teachers make groups ahead of time. They have them all laid out before the class even gets there. Obviously that's very efficient for class time as well. So that's
a really good one too.
It all boils down to that piece of trying to figure out, what are you really trying to accomplish here? Are you trying to accomplish some SEL, or are you trying to get some skills? So you want kids with a ball in their hand as much time as possible. So what are you really looking to do? Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah. So, and it just goes back. We kind of narrowed whether you're trying to get the students with partners or put the students in groups. The why comes down to 3 things. Are you trying to protect the students' emotions? Are you trying to address those emotions head on and with social emotional learning? Are you just looking for flat out efficiency? And really the most important of the considerations is just to know the why.
And that, Jamie, is Thinking PE.
Connect with us on Facebook and Twitter at Thinking PE. Find us on all your favorite podcast providers by searching Thinking PE. For more resources and videos, go to www.thinkingpe.com. Thanks for listening.